90% of your problems are not actually happening to you right now. They are memories you keep replaying or fears you keep rehearsing. Sit with that for a second. The bill you are worried about, it isn't due this second. The conversation that wrecked your morning, it already ended. The failure you are bracing for hasn't happened yet and might never happen at all. And yet you carry it. All of it. Like stones in your pockets. One for every wound, one for every what if. Here is the harsh truth a man wrote to himself, alone in a war camp, nearly 2,000 years ago. You are not disturbed by things but by your judgment about things. Not the event. The verdict you pass on the event. Most people spend their entire lives negotiating with pain that doesn't exist yet, while the actual life in front of them, the only life they will ever get, passes by unlived. This isn't a video about positive thinking. Positive thinking is a mask. What you need is something sturdier, a discipline, a structure, a way of seeing that doesn't collapse the moment life gets hard, because it will get hard. Today I want to show you 10 habits, not motivational slogans. Actual mental tools forged by men who buried their children, lost their fortunes, and were exiled from everything they knew, and still found a way to live with clarity. We will start with a story most people don't know, about the most powerful man in the world, writing in the dark in the middle of a war he didn't choose, to no one but himself. Stay until the end. Because habit number 7 is the one almost nobody practices, and it's the one that changes everything. The year is around 170 AD. The man is Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome. Ruler of nearly a quarter of the known world's population, commander of legions, master of provinces stretching from Britain to Syria. And he is freezing in a military camp on the northern frontier, fighting a war he never wanted. The Marcomannic Wars had dragged Rome into brutal, grinding conflict against Germanic tribes pressing across the border. At the same time, a plague, historians now call it the Antonine Plague, likely smallpox, was tearing through the empire, killing soldiers and citizens by the thousands. Marcus was not built for this. By his own account, and by the accounts of those around him, he was a man drawn to philosophy, to quiet study, to Stoic teachers like Junius Rusticus and his circle in Rome. He would have preferred a library to a battlefield. But duty doesn't ask what you prefer. And so, somewhere along that frontier, modern scholars believe near the land of the Quadi, along the River Grande, Marcus began writing. Not a public work. Not a speech for the Senate. He wrote to himself. Historians and translators have long noted this. The book we now call Meditations was never meant for us. Its original Greek title translates closer to himself. It was a private journal. The emperor's own mind laid bare, disciplining itself in the middle of chaos. In it, he wrote lines like this, paraphrased from his own recorded reflections. Each morning, he reminded himself he would meet people who were ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, and jealous. He wrote that he must remember they act this way out of ignorance of good and evil, and that he himself is not exempt from wrongdoing. Therefore, he cannot be angry with a kinsman, nor hate him, for they are made to work together. Think about the weight of that. He is not writing this as an abstract philosopher in a peaceful garden. He is writing it as a man who has buried multiple children. Historical records suggest at least 8 of his children died before adulthood. He was a man managing famine, plague, and war simultaneously. A man who, by every worldly measure, had every right to be consumed by grief and rage. And instead of collapsing into that rage, he built a practice. Every night, or in stolen moments between commands, he returned to the same discipline. Reviewing his judgments, correcting his thinking, reminding himself what was in his control and what was not. He wrote, in essence, that the things that upset us are not other people's actions, but our own opinions about those actions. And that opinion can be taken away the moment we choose to withdraw it. Marcus Aurelius died in 180 AD, likely near Vindobona, modern-day Vienna. Still on campaign. Still at the frontier. Having spent nearly the entirety of his reign fighting wars of survival rather than wars of conquest. He never intended for the world to read his private notebook. But we did. And what we found wasn't a man without pain. We found a man who had built, page by page, night by night, a mind strong enough to hold that pain without being destroyed by it. That is the habit beneath every habit we are about to cover. Here is what almost everyone misses about that story. Marcus wasn't calm because his life was calm. His life was arguably one of the most burdened lives in recorded history. Plague, war, betrayal, grief, and the crushing isolation of absolute power. He was calm because he had a system for processing what happened to him before it could metastasize into panic, resentment, or despair. Modern psychology has essentially rediscovered this. Cognitive behavioral therapy, one of the most evidence-backed therapeutic approaches used today, is built on a strikingly similar premise. It is not the event that creates your emotional state, it is the interpretation of the event. Change the interpretation and you change the emotional consequence. This is the same mechanism Marcus was practicing in that war camp, nearly 2,000 years before anyone coined the term cognitive distortion. Here is the deeper psychological truth hiding underneath all of this. Your nervous system cannot tell the difference between a threat that is happening and a threat that you are simply imagining. Your body reacts the same way. Elevated cortisol, tightened chest, racing thoughts, whether the danger is real or rehearsed, which means most people are running their internal alarm system on a threat that exists only in thought. This is why just stop worrying never works. You cannot outwill a nervous system. What you can do is train the judgment that feeds it. The same way Marcus trained his one entry at a time for years. And here is the part that connects directly to success, to wealth, to any real achievement in your life. Every high performer, every builder, every person who has created something lasting, has had to develop a tolerance for discomfort without being hijacked by it. Not the absence of fear. The capacity to act clearly while fear is present. That is the entire hidden architecture of Stoic practice. Not suppression, not denial, but a rigorous, repeatable process for separating what is yours to control from what isn't, so your energy goes only where it can actually change something. That is what we are about to build, piece by piece. Here are 4 practices. Not vague ideas, but specific mechanisms you can start using today. Step 1. The morning premeditation. Before you open your phone, before the world reaches you, spend 2 minutes doing what Marcus did at the start of each day. Mentally rehearsing friction. Not catastrophizing. Rehearsing. Ask yourself plainly, today I may meet someone who is rude, dismissive, or difficult. Today something may not go as planned. This isn't pessimism. It is inoculation. When you have already mentally met the friction, it loses its power to ambush you. The goal isn't to expect the worst, it is to remove your surprise. Because surprise is what turns friction into a spiral. Step 2. The dichotomy of control filter. This comes directly from Epictetus, a man who spent years enslaved before becoming one of Rome's most respected philosophy teachers. His core teaching, recorded in the Discourses and the Enchiridion, draws one clean line. Some things are within our power, our judgments, our intentions, our responses. And some things are not, other people's opinions, outcomes, the past. Practically, this means the next time something upsets you, physically pause and ask one question. Is this within my control or not? If it is, act. Immediately. Decisively. Without spiraling. If it isn't, release it. Not by force, but by recognizing that gripping something you cannot change doesn't protect you. It only exhausts you. Do this consistently and you will notice something remarkable. Most of your daily anxiety was never actually about uncontrollable events. It was about your refusal to accept which category they belong to. Step 3. The evening reckoning. Seneca, in his work on anger, describes a practice he adopted himself. Reviewing the entire day each night before sleep, asking 3 questions. What did I do that I should not have? What did I fail to do that I should have done? What did I do well? This is not self-punishment. It is an audit, not a judgment. You are simply collecting data on your own mind. Where it slipped, where it held steady, so tomorrow's version of you starts 1 degree wiser than today's. Do this for 30 days and you will start to notice your own patterns with startling clarity. The same triggers, the same reactions appearing again and again, finally visible because you are finally looking. Step 4. Voluntary discomfort. Seneca also advised setting aside days to practice poverty deliberately. Eating the plainest food, wearing the coarsest clothing, asking yourself, is this the condition I feared? Because if you can sit inside the thing you fear and find it survivable, the fear itself loses its grip on you. You don't need to sleep on the floor to practice this. It can be as simple as 1 day without complaint, 1 cold shower, 1 meal without stimulation, 1 hour without your phone. The goal is the same one Seneca had. To prove to yourself, through direct experience, that comfort is not the same thing as security, and that you are far more capable of handling difficulty than your anxious mind gives you credit for. 4 habits. 1 thread connecting them. Control your judgment and you control your peace. Not your circumstances. Your judgment. That was true in a war camp on the Danube. It is true in your apartment, at your desk, in your inbox right now. Marcus Aurelius never published his notebook. He never sought credit, praise, or an audience. He wrote those words simply to survive his own mind in the middle of a war, a plague, and a grief no parent should have to carry. And somehow, without meaning to, he left behind the clearest map we have for staying whole when everything around us is not. Your problems will not disappear. That was never the promise of Stoicism, and it never will be. But your relationship to those problems, that you can rebuild one honest evening at a time. That is the work. If this gave you even one moment of clarity, subscribe. Because next week, we go deeper into the exact letters Seneca wrote from exile, and what they reveal about turning isolation into your greatest advantage. Until then, hold the line.